You may have always had this idea of eventually moving to Pensacola or just Florida in general. Who hasn't thought about retiring to the Sunshine State? Because I know I have. You might be working remote now and you're thinking, let's pack our bags and move to Pensacola, Florida. We've always vacationed there and it's so warm and it's so beautiful. There's palm trees and the Gulf of Mexico is right there. And you find yourself looking on Zillow every single day and the homes are so cheap. But is it too good to be true? Why isn't everyone moving there if it's so great and so affordable? It's because they're realizing Pensacola might be fine for vacation, but as a permanent resident, it's not that great after all. And affordability might not be so realistic, so naturally, you're gonna explore other options, specifically ones close by, and you came across living in Lower Alabama. And you discover a potentially better option, and that's Gulf Shores. So in this video, I'm gonna compare Pensacola and Gulf Shores to help you, or maybe even prevent you from making a big mistake by moving to the wrong location. I'm Jess, my partner Tony and I, we're the #1 relocation team in Lower Alabama. Now let's talk Pensacola and Gulf Shores with y'all. Starting with a little geography. Gulf Shores is located in Baldwin County on the southernmost tip of Alabama between Mobile, which is 50 miles northwest, and then you've got Pensacola, Florida, which is only 35 miles east. Pensacola is the westernmost city in the Florida Panhandle. It's bordered to the south by the Gulf of Mexico. In comparison, Pensacola is significantly larger than Gulf Shores. Both cities offer access to beautiful Gulf of Mexico beaches, but living in Pensacola might require a drive to get to those beaches. Where Gulf Shores, you'll be minutes from the water. Pensacola feels a lot like Gulf Shores, but with way more people, transplants included, and a little more to do. Although I know it's happening in Gulf Shores too, just not at that same level. Pensacola also has a much higher homeless population, unfortunately, and there's been a lot of complaints about the trash, the fires, there's been crime and people behaving erratically, as well as trespassing and theft. In the city of Pensacola, there is a homeless camp on a vacant lot where an estimated 200 to 300 people currently live. You don't see many homeless in Gulf Shores or the surrounding cities, and I'm not trying to sound insensitive either. It's just important to research the area that you want to move to. I recently read an article that mentioned how the National Association of Realtors had done research and concluded that a homeless shelter in a residential neighborhood has the potential for lowering property values by 12.7%. So it's just important to be aware of what's going on in your city because it can impact you. Now, both of these beachside cities are known for their sugary white sand beaches, turquoise waters, and vibrant culture. One thing a lot of people aren't aware of is that downtown Pensacola and the surrounding region has a very strong military presence because it's home to the Naval Air Station Pensacola, which is also home to the Blue Angels. Now, this significantly impacts the city's atmosphere since military personnel and their families are often moving in and out. As a result, a lot of homes are being used as rentals, and there's just an overall high turnover. And not all rentals are well kept, unfortunately, and that just comes with the territory. There's gonna be a good bit of rentals in Gulf Shores as well, but from what we see, they're definitely held to a higher standard because the audience for those rentals are vacationers who are looking at these clean, coastal-themed homes for their family vacations. One thing that stands out about Gulf Shores is their commitment to the natural environment. The area is home to several nature preserves, including Gulf State Park and the Gulf Islands National Seashore. And like I mentioned, they're just held to a higher standard here in keeping well-manicured homes and preserving the nature. Now, a big difference between Pensacola and Gulf Shores is that Pensacola has 50,000 people. Now, you might be thinking 50,000 people, that's nothing. But Gulf Shores is just 15,000, so just think of the difference when it comes to what's being offered. Another huge difference between these two places is that over in Florida, flood and wind coverage is required and insurance premiums have skyrocketed after Hurricane Ian. Hurricane Ian caused over $100 billion worth of damage and the consumers are left paying for it. I don't even know how that makes sense. Probably because insurance is an overall scam, but also keep in mind that the insurance will keep rising in the future due to the increased intensity of these seasonal storms. So if you have to pay these high insurance premiums, your buying power for a home is going to be reduced dramatically. Now you're thinking, wait, hurricanes? Lower Alabama's on the coast too, so they must get hit with hurricanes. Statistically, we're not as prone as Florida is. Just look at the hurricanes that have come through Lower Alabama and the hurricanes that have gone through Florida, and you'll see we don't even come close. And with that said, Our homeowners insurance reflects differently. We may be higher than some places in the country, but we're not high by any means unless you live directly on the water. And in Alabama, they aren't requiring most homeowners to obtain flood insurance within 3 years like Florida is. And a big reason is we just don't have to, because we're not hanging off into the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf like Florida is. I personally choose Gulf Shores over Pensacola. Even if you don't live right in Gulf Shores, you still have easy access to the beaches. Baldwin County is so much cleaner than Pensacola. Pensacola's downtown area is nice, and the east side of town has some really, really great neighborhoods, but so much of the city is kind of run down and sketchy looking. Also, Pensacola is very spread out. You do a lot of driving there, and it might not be convenient to get to places like shopping and restaurants and of course the beaches. When it comes to the housing market, Gulf Shores can be more expensive than Pensacola, but remember, taxes and insurance can and will likely be lower. And you have lots of affordable options too. You can comfortably move a little bit further away from Gulf Shores like Foley or Robertsdale. You've got Loxley, Silverhill, Summerdale, or Fairhope, and they will still give you access to all things Gulf Shores. And all those cities that I just mentioned are all safe and laid back. Pensacola is so big and you might find yourself limited to housing options. Gulf Shores opens you up to Baldwin County and so many beautiful places to consider. Now, one final difference between Pensacola and Gulf Shores, and probably one of the biggest reasons so many choose Alabama over Florida by a landslide, is our southern hospitality here in Alabama. If you want to learn more about Gulf Shores, check out this next video.